beautiful people, welcome once again to H&M Clothings, and in today's video we are going to be making a 12 pieces skirt. Yes, this is a request from one of you guys on this channel, and I'm so glad and I'm happy to dive right into this tutorial. So if you want to learn how to draft a 12 pieces skirt, do keep on watching and let us get right into today's video. So here I have my pattern paper, and the first thing we're going to be doing is to measure the length of your skirt. My skirt length is actually 36 inches. This is 36 inches. Here is 36 inches. So I'm going to be adding about 2 inches for allowance at the bottom of the skirt. So I'm going to rule my 2-inch line there. So I'm going to measure from the skirt waist, which is like the upper part of this skirt, to 9 inches below as my hip line. It's between 8 to 9 inches, and you can actually take the measurement on your client. Then I'm going to also take my knee shaping line, and my knee shaping line is 18 inches. So I'm going to mark that 18 inch as well. So remember that your knee line is going to come up 3 inches above your main knee. Please do it that way so that you'll be able to walk well, you'll be able to move around well. We're going to first of all draft our skirt on this pattern. Come to the top of your paper and measure out 1/4 of your waist measurement. My waist is 32 inches, so 1/4 of 32 is 8 inch. I'll mark 8 inch here. For the sake of this 12 pieces skirt, I'm not going to be putting any darts in the skirt. I'll make it dartless, so I'll just add 1 inch for seam allowance here by the side seam. Then on my hip line, my hip is actually 42 inches. 1/4 of 42 is 10.5 inches. So I'll mark 10.5 inches here. And I'm going to put 1 inch for my seam allowance there. Now come to this hip line, measure what you have here, and that's about 11.5 inches for me. So I'll just subtract 0.5 inches from that line. So I'm going to mark it for 11 inch there. So here is 9 inch, here is 11.5 inch, and here is 11 inch. I'll now come to the bottom as well and measure 11 inch as well, the same inches that we have there. And now I'm going to just rule my basic skirt pattern. So this is my basic skirt pattern. I'm going to go ahead and join all the points together. If you're drafting a 12 pieces skirt, that means the addition of both the front and the back will give you the total of 12 pieces. So on your front alone, you should have 6 different pieces, and on your back alone, you should have 6 different pieces. If your front is 6 pieces and this front is being drafted on fold, that means it's going to be 3 pieces on the front. That means we have to divide this front to 3 pieces and your back to 3 pieces. So that when you cut it together, when you cut 2 pieces of each of this front, then you have 6, and cut 2 pieces of each of the back, you'll have 6 back, and together will give you 12. I hope we understand what I'm saying. So let us do that now. We have already added 1 inch as seam allowance, so let us ignore that 1 inch. Measure what you have here without the seam allowance, and we have 8 inches. Divide 8 inches by 3. 8 divided by 3 will give us 2.6 inches. So we are going to be sharing this waistline into 2.6 inch. 2.6 is about 2 3/4 inches. So this is my 2 3/4 inches here. I'll mark that here for 1, and I'll come and mark 2 3/4 again. I'll mark that here for the other, and here is my remaining 2 3/4. So I've marked it 2 3/4, 2 3/4, 2 3/4. This is my seam allowance. So I've already put my seam allowance for this last piece here. Now let us go to the hip line. Measure what you have here. I have 10.5. Now you're going to divide 10.5 into 3 parts. 10.5 divided by 3 is actually 3.5 inches. So I'm going to share this equally, 3.5 here, another 3.5 here, and the last one will be my 3.5. So I have 3.5, 3.5, 3.5. Now come to your knee shaping line, and we have, ignore the seam allowance there, 10 inches. So that means I'm going to be working with this 10-inch mark here. That means I'm going to be dividing my 10-inch by 3 places as well. So 10 divided by 3 is 3 1/4. It's actually 3.33, which is 3 1/4. So 3 1/4 is here like so. 3 1/4 is here as well like so. And the rest is my 3 1/4. So the same thing, I'll come to the bottom and measure that 3 1/4. Since the measurement I have here is what is the same as was at my bottom, I'll measure my 3 1/4 as well. So 3 1/4 from here, 3 1/4 as well from here. Then the remaining is 3 1/4 with the seam allowance. So what we'll do now is to join up these points together. So what we'll do next is to label these panels. So I'll write 1 as the first panel, 2 as the second panel, 3 as the third panel. So cutting 2 pieces of each will give me 6 panels in the front. Okay, so let us cut this now. Then we are going to be shaping the knee and adding our flare attachments. Right, so these are my 3 panels. We're going to start adding our flare attachment from panel 1. So this is the extra paper. Let me start from there. Okay, so we have this now. So we're going to come to the bottom from this part here and measure 4 inch for the flare attachments and 1 inch for seam allowance. On the knee shaping, I'm going to come in by just 1/4 of an inch. So 1/4 of an inch is about here, that's 0.25. Come in by 0.25. Then you put your 1 inch seam allowance from that 0.25. Yeah, remember we'll be shaping the knee. You have to shape the knee so that it looks more fitted and lovely. Then come here, put your 1 inch on the hip line for your seam allowance, and put your 1 inch on the waistline also for your seam allowance. So you can see that if I want to join just the without the seam allowance, I'll be having this. Then from there, I'll connect it to the hip like so. So it's going to be fitted firmly on the knee at that point. But because of our seam allowance, I'm going to now add my 1 inch seam allowance. This is the first panel for the front. Let's quickly do the rest of the panels. Do the same thing, come to the bottom. 4 inches for the flare, and 1 inch seam allowance from there. On the knee, shape it by 0.25 inches here, or 0.25, then add 1 inch for the seam allowance. On the hip, no shaping, just 1 inch for seam allowance. On the waist, no shaping, just 1 inch for seam allowance. Join it up and cut. So this is my panel 2. Let's do our panel 3. Okay guys, so this is my third panel, and I have attached my paper there for my flay attachment. So I'm going to come to the bottom here. Remember, on this third panel we already have 1 inch sewing allowance, so we don't need to add 1 inch after adding our flay attachment. So my flay attachment here is 4 inches. I'll mark that 4 inches here, because 1 inch seam allowance is already there that can be transferred there, so there's no problem with that. Now for the knee shaping, please come and shape your knee here by 1/2 inch. For the other 2 middle ones, that's for panel 1 and for panel 2, do your knee shaping of 0.25 or 1/4 inch there, while for this one, do your knee shaping of 1/2 inch or 0.5 inches there. So from there, we just need to join up to this point because we already have our seam allowance there. No need for infusing any seam allowance. So we'll join up here, and from there, we are going to be joining up to this point here. So we have this and this, like so. Now cut. So here is our panel 1, panel 2, and panel 3. Now let me quickly tell you something to do on each of these panels here. You know that on this panel 1 it's going to be 2, so we have just attached only 4 inches. We need to attach on this other side as well. So it's going to be double here, double here, double here. 4 inch on the left, 4 inch on the right, 4 inch on the left, 4 inch on the right, 4 inch on the left, 4 inch on the right. So that one I'll just quickly do it because it's still the same thing. Alright guys, so we are through drafting all the panels for the front. I have panel 1, 2, 3, and the flare attachment has to be on both sides of the panel. This one will be cut 2 pieces, this one 2 pieces, and this one 2 pieces. A useful thing that you could do that will also help is to curve this, come up by 1 inch on both corners and curve it like so. So we can come here to the edge of each of these corners. Just come up by 1 inch here, like so, and just curve it from here, curve it, so you don't have sharp corners. Do the same for here, come up by 1 inch and curve it as well, so you don't have sharp corners. Do here too, come up by 1 inch, curve it as well. So you trim here like so, trim here like so. Right, you can see the beauty already. So if you want to cut this, if you want to sew this on the fabric, just place it and cut it. Your patterns are already made, no need to do any other thing. Now something important for the back, I don't need to start drafting the basic back, then cutting, dividing. I don't need to do all of those things. Number two and number 3 panels for the front will serve the same usefulness as number 2 and 3 for the back. 2 and 3 for the front is the same as 2 and 3 for the back. So the only part that we need to work on is number 1 for the front. So this one, because there's no zip allowance, we have to do just the 1 panel for the back. Then 2 and 3 will still serve the same purpose for back and front. Let me just label it. This one is the front and back. This one also front and back. So if I want to cut my front, I'll just take all this, place it, cut all my front. If I now want to cut my back, I can't use this one for my back because there's no zip allowance. That's the only one I need to work on now. But these other 2 will serve the purpose for the back. So let's work on only 1 piece of the back and we are done. So here is my pattern for the back. We are only drafting the center back. That is where the zip is. My pattern is already cut to the skirt length, which is 38 inches. Remember, that was what we used for the front. Okay, come to this edge of the pattern and put your zip allowance. My own zip allowance, I want to use 2 inch for my zip allowance. If you want to use 1 inch, fine. If you want to use 1.5, fine. Just put whatever seam allowance you want, your zipper allowance there. And now just draw a straight line from that point to meet what is on top. So that will be my zipper allowance for the back. Now also draw your horizontal measurements, which is your hip line and your knee shaping line. So my hip line is 9 inches. I'll mark 9 inch, and my knee shaping line is 18 inches. I'll mark 18 inch. And draw my line horizontally across. When we divided our waist, 32 inch divided by 4, 8 inches, and we now divided 8 inches by 3. We put here 3 3/4 inches here. So I'll mark that 3 3/4 inches here as well. I'll come to my hip line and mark that 3.5 inch. No. The waistline was 8 divided by 3 is 2 3/4 inches. Sorry about that. Please, 2 3/4 inches. I mark it here. Then I come to my hip line and mark 3.5 inches because I did 42 divided by 4, which is 10.5. Then I now divided 10.5 by 3, since we are going to cut 3 pieces for the front and the back. So that is my 3.5 here. Then on the knee shaping, I used 3 1/4 inch. You can just watch the front. I just repeated the measurements we used for the front. I just put it here: 2 3/4, 3.5, and 3. when you get your own division measurements, that's what you just place there at the center back too as well. So just come to the bottom and still put that same measurement you have here, which is 3 1/4, put it there. And now we can rule a straight line to join up all those points together. So I have one point here like so. I have another point here like so. Then I have my last point straight down like so. Okay, so we're going to work on this part of the back first. Then I'll come and work on this part. Okay, so remember my flare attachment was 4 inches. Then I'll add 1 inch for my sewing allowance, which is 5 inch. On the back, on this side, you just come in by, on your knee shaping, come in by 0.25 inches, that's 1/4 inch, come in by 1/4 inch. Then I'll now come and mark my 1 inch measurement from that 1/4 inch. Here, mark 1 inch. Here also mark 1 inch. Join the points together. If you have not seen the video on how I made my 6 pieces skirt, please go and watch that video. It's going to help you to understand everything that is going on here. It's going to help you to know how to sew the patterns together. It's going to help you to know so many things. That is why I'm just explaining the basic and the detail here. But the cutting, the sewing on the fabric, that one is going to help. So I've attached this to the zipper parts of the back. What I am going to do here, I actually want this back to be actually more than 4 inches, so I can extend this back to like a fish and make it like 6-8 inches if I want to. Let me extend the back to like 8 inches. From this zipper allowance, this 2 inch we have here, this outer part here, you can measure from the bottom 4 inches for your flaring out, but I want to double that to make it 8 inches. So I'm going out by 8 inches, and at this part I'll go in 1 inch for that perfect to show the bum at the back. Then I'll just join it back to this top like so. Alright, so guys, so I do not need to put any seam allowance again to this part. So if I'm going to be sewing my zipper allowance, I'm just going to mark my 2 inch here from here. That 2 inch will be marked on the fabric. So I'm coming all the way from this point here to this hip. From this knee shaping to this hip, that's my 2 inch like so. Then I'll measure my 2 inch at the bottom. So I'll just connect it here like so. Okay, so that will be the zipper allowance for the back. So this is my center back. Center, let me write it for back. And it's only 1. Center back 1. Remember to also cover it at the top by 1 inch. So guys, this is my front pattern. I have my front 2 pieces, 2 pieces, 2 pieces. So I'll use this for my front. I'll cut them on fabric. That means I have 6 different pieces for the front. Okay, and if I want to cut my back, I'll just replace this number 1 of the front. I'll replace it with the back like so. So this will be my back, this will be my back, this will be my back. So it's still the same thing, guys. I hope we understand so far. And please do not be discouraged with pattern drafting. Pattern drafting actually gives you the perfect fit. You can do whatever you want to do here. For instance, if you were cutting directly on your fabric, your new shaping, some other things that you would see on the pattern you won't be able to quickly notice on the fabric. For instance, when I forgot to add the other flare attachment to the left side of my fabric, you know, if I just cut it straight up, it would have been a mistake and that would have been wasted. Guys, just try and embrace pattern drafting. It helps, though it's kind of like a little tedious, but practice makes perfect. When you start and you continue, you get perfect with the work. And some things that you don't need to use pattern for, I just go straight and cut on fabric. You know, there are other styles that you don't actually need patterns for, but the ones you need patterns for, please just go ahead and use patterns for them. That will mark the end of the tutorial, guys. If you did enjoy this video, give me a huge thumbs up. Also, like, subscribe to this channel, guys. I love you all so much. Send in your requests. I'll promise to do. I'll be sure to get my hands to do them for you. Until we see you in our next tutorial, stay safe. God bless. Bye. Going out. If you want everything to be the same, oh God.